Hi, my name is Lynn Love. I'm the business specialist here at Next. Next is a organization that works to help with employment and education opportunities for young adults. A lot of people consider us the sister organization to WorkSource, who is located actually right next door to us. Yeah.
Oh, and hi, I'm Jair, an intern at LMW. I've been interning for like 2 years, and I'm a student at WCV studying, majoring in mechanical engineering.
Very cool.
So do you mind giving us like a history of how like you got involved with Next and all that?
Yeah, I started working with Next almost 2 years ago. And when I started, we had a really great team. At the time, we had a lot of different organizations in the building. We were working with ESC 112, we were working with Job Corps. Since then, due to COVID, I think for the most part, we've kind of scaled down. For example, ESC 112 is no longer here. Job Corps is still with us, but again, due to COVID, they're not in the building as often. But it's been really great to see Next growth in other ways. We've been helping a lot of students get through the pandemic. There have been a lot of resources that we've been able to offer to those who are struggling. And it's been really exciting just to see, I think, the impact a lot more directly because there's so much more of a struggle. And it is especially hitting the students that we work with really hard. And so it's been just really great to support them as much as we can.
Yeah, the pandemic like changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
What made you like choose like to work with Next?
I think more than anything, I just really wanted to make a difference in my community. That is something that's really important to me when I'm choosing, like, my professional career. And I just really loved that Next was so welcoming from the start. I had a really great manager who I started with, who was just like, honestly, one of the best people that I've ever met. And she just really helped me grow a lot when I first started here, and just like showed me like how I can make an impact.
Wait, so are you like is this not your like career or?
No, it is.
Okay.
Sorry, was that not clear?
No, yeah, I was just like, I guess just a question that popped up in my head.
Okay.
So what methods or like ways do you use like to get like your program known to like the community?
Like outreach. I would say there was an initial focus a lot on social media, and trying to not just social media, but trying to find out what social media platforms that young adults use, just because that is our target audience, ages 16 through 24. And so we were initially really on like TikTok a lot. Our team was on Instagram, even Facebook a little bit, even though that's probably a little less used by the younger audiences. Unfortunately, we've had to take a slight step back from that just because we've had some changes to our team that we've been handling. But I think other ways that we've utilized just a lot of like flyers and a lot of going to community events and things. And I think right now our focus is trying to create our own events and bring people here and not just like attending other people's, to make ourselves more widely known.
Yeah, I was like asking like I was like, oh, maybe they could help us. Like maybe there are some of their ideas we could learn from to like get outreach and all that.
Yeah. What kind of outreach tools do you guys like to utilize the most?
We use a lot of Instagram and we're like starting to make a lot of TikToks right now.
Yeah, we found that TikTok is popular with the younger audiences.
And then Instagram, Facebook, pretty much all social media platforms.
Right.
Do you have any like specific like softwares or you use for social media? Like we use a lot of Canva to like make like graphics and all that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd say we use Canva the most in terms of like creating graphics, not just taking pictures. Other software for social media, I think that's about it. I think mostly we use Canva.
Have you ever thought of like expanding the organization?
I think yes, and I would say that our biggest focus in terms of expansion would be replacing ESD 112. Like I mentioned, ESD 112 used to be in our building, and they offered services through Open Doors,
Mhm.
which help with like GED services. And since we lost them, I think we've been trying to find someone to replace them in the building. I think right now our top choice is Clark College and trying to get them to become more involved here at Next.
Mhm.
However, I think we're, open-minded to just finding a really good fit in the building, and expanding that way and just making new partnerships.
Mhm. You briefly mentioned how like the pandemic had, like impacted you. How has like your services like changed from that?
Yeah, I would say that we've gone from being an in-person focused organization to a virtual service focused organization. I would say that for the most part, our students prefer to meet virtually, whether that's a Zoom meeting or a phone call or just texting, which I think has been really great for a lot of students because a lot of our students, like being low income, don't have a lot of transportation options. They don't have a car. Buying a bus pass might be expensive and out of reach for them. So it's really great that we can still connect with students and kind of get over that barrier.
Can you give like an example of how like Next impacted a certain individual or individual? This could be you also.
Hmm. Um, Sorry, I'm just trying to think. I probably can't give an example of a specific student just because of liability
Yeah, you
issues.
don't have to like name them if, or up to you whether you choose to.
Yeah. But I think for me, I've been impacted by Next and just seeing what our young adults like go through
Mhm.
and all of the just transitions of growing up, the transitions of COVID, like all of these things that have impacted them. And just seeing how resilient they are is really um, just insightful. I think that's something that you don't really get to experience unless you work with young adults and like truly get to know them and spend time with them. Um, yeah, and I've just been really impressed with how resilient and strong they are. And oftentimes, um, I think when they start coming to our program, that's something they learn about themselves as well, is how much strength they have because they're able to come here. And I think at first it's hard for them to ask for help. And a lot of our young adults, they come to us and we'll start telling them all about our services and like which ones are they interested in. And at first, I think a lot of our students are kind of more clammed up and they'll only pick a couple because I think they're afraid to ask for too much help at once, right? Because they're like, oh, what if other kids need that help more than I do? But they really learn how to like advocate for themselves and that it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to use those resources because they are there for those students, and just like seeing them like blossom in that way is really, really awesome.
Mhm. Yeah, it's not really like selfish if you like really need all that help.
Yeah, exactly.
So I kind of like searched, I did a little like research and like went through your website and all that, and I like
Yeah.
watched the orientation and all that. It was really like I like really learned a lot about the program. So a lot of some of these questions might be like based off the orientation and all
Okay.
that. So you mentioned that you worked through Job Corps and then you also had these like employment sectors. Do you
Mhm.
mind describing like the difference between those?
Yeah, so Job Corps is an organization who they're like independent technically from Next and they just reside in our building. And I would describe it as a program. It's kind of like a college, like they take students
Hmm.
and you go to a college and usually it's to work on like trade centered skills that you learn and they pay for everything and you're going to school. While our sectors that we focused on are for really anybody at Next. You don't have to go to Job Corps and be a part of that specific program. But we've decided to focus on 4 sectors at Next, and those are healthcare, manufacturing, technology, and construction. And really, we've decided to focus on those mostly because those 4 industries, we found that specifically in this area, like Clark, Cowlitz, Wahkiakum counties, that those sectors are always growing and always hiring, and that they tend to pay more than minimum wage as well, which is really important to us because when we're finding a job for students and trying to help them with employment, we don't want something that isn't going to help them in the long term. Like it's not helpful to get a student a first-time job if they can't even make ends meet on that and they're just going to need to find another job. So we try to find something that will help them make them enough money to survive. And we really focus on, just independence, which, those sectors tend to be able to give a little more independence because they're hiring and because they pay more.
You
Does
kind
that
of
make
like,
sense?
yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, is it like to help them get certified? Is it like to them to learn about the certain certain like jobs and all that? But I guess you already answered my question.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, sometimes there are certifications in those realms. Like for instance, if a student tells us they're interested in healthcare, oftentimes they will have to get a certification. You can't just like always start working. Like they might need to get like a phlebotomy certificate or a CNA license or something like that. And that is something that here at Next we can help them pay for, just because obviously those things can be really expensive. They can be, $500-$600 or even in the thousands of dollars. And so if you have a student who comes to us who's already low income and then they want to improve their lives, but they can't because they can't afford this one, license that is going to help them make a lot more money. That's something that we can help pay for and is really helpful to the students, I think. Yeah, and it kind of helps them get into that field.
So another, I guess, program you had was World of Work classes. Could you like describe a bit more of that?
Yeah, that's actually a little outdated on our website, but only by a couple weeks. We used to have these new World of Work classes, and those were basically a professionalism class for our students. It used to be 3 weeks long, and it would go over, how to communicate with your employer, how to write a professional email, just like all of these soft skills that we found are really important to like starting a job. And for the most part, some of it can be really simple, but we didn't want to assume that our students like knew anything coming into it. Like this is a great foundation, so that way anyone can take the class, and you don't have to have any experience, and it kind of helps just get you, just like I said, a good foundation to starting to work. They're not called new work of classes anymore. We recently started a new program called Design Your Future, and it's a 2-week long class, but yeah, any of our students can take it, but we recommend it for students who haven't had any professionalism, or not any professionalism. We recommend it for students who haven't had any work experience, just because it is going to kind of just teach them about the basics of starting work. And that also is a part of our internship program, which I can kind of segue into. For anybody who does our internship program, where we guarantee an internship in the community, they have to take that 2-week long class beforehand, just to make sure that, again, their professionalism skills are where they need to be. And yeah, our internship program, we pay our interns $16 an hour currently. And it's just a great way for our students who don't have any job experience to get something on their resume, right? Like have an internship on their resume, and we try to find it in their field that they're interested in long term. So if a student comes to us and is like, I want to go into marketing one day, then we try to find them a marketing internship. So that way when they're job searching, that someone will see that, hey, I have this internship that I did, like I have some experience, I kind of know what I'm doing. Because obviously experience is oftentimes just as important in education nowadays when it comes to job searching.
Yeah, that kind of reminded me of I don't know if you've heard of Partners in Careers, PIC.
Yeah.
They like also had like these like classes that you took. Since I did it, I was like, oh, they had these classes that you took along with like you were giving an internship.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I know that PIC does a similar one, and even ESD 112 in the community also has some internship programs. It's really cool to see like how we all have those resources, and sometimes even we can co-enroll students into multiple programs and kind of offer them, similar things, which is really cool.
Those are almost all of my questions. I have this other one. I'm not sure if you don't have to answer if you don't feel comfortable with. A good amount of our audience are undocumented people. Do you have any like, do your programs differ or are inclusive to undocumented people?
So this is actually, unfortunately, a gap in our program.
Mhm.
We receive federal funding, and so because
Uh,
of that, we have to follow federal law, and we're not allowed to offer any services to undocumented individuals or spend any federal dollars on them, which is really unfortunate. But in order to fill that gap, one thing that I've done and taken really seriously in my job is trying to find where we can refer students so that way they can get those resources, because we know we can't get them through us, and that's a battle that we can't fight. But we've tried to find other places. So like for instance, we've reached out to you guys over at what is it, your new name, Latino Leadership Northwest, right?
yes. Mhm.
Yeah. And then also LULAC,
Mhm.
in order to refer, if we have undocumented students, refer them there for better resources.
That's nice that you thought of that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I definitely hate that we have that gap for sure.
Mhm. Along with like helping people that are like aren't always like looked at and all that, do you do you consider people that are like homeless, or do you
Hmm.
cater to that audience?
Absolutely. Um, we're able to enroll students who are homeless. In fact, that's one of our like enrollment qualifications. And we offer every support that we can. We can refer people to Council for the Homeless, who obviously are a really great organization in the community who help with homelessness. Sometimes we can help with late rent payments for students, or like deposits on new apartments. We also have food in the building, so sometimes even something as simple as like loading up a couple grocery bags for a student to take home, or wherever they're living, can be really extremely helpful. We try to do what we can, and that is a population that we definitely focus on, and had a lot of homeless young adults come to us, and we're able to help them, find something, find a home.
Mm. Yeah, that's really nice of you guys.
Yeah.
I saw some of the reviews and I was like, oh yeah, they like help us a lot with like food and all that.
Oh, that's awesome. I haven't seen the reviews myself. I didn't even realize. That's really cool.
I probably should have asked that later because I just thought of another question. So,
Oh yeah, no, go for it.
so do you know how like you have like this like application that you filled out for the
Hmm.
orientation and all that?
Yeah.
If someone were to go in person, how would that like be different?
Yeah, so you can fill out our application online and attend an orientation, and that's one way to do it. But if you wanted to just stop by, you totally can stop by. Our building is open for appointments or just walk-ins, and you can just come to the front desk and be like, "Look, I'm not enrolled here, but I'm just curious." And one of our staff members can definitely give you a tour of the building, show you some of the initial resources that you can grab right away, explain our enrollment process and like other future services we could offer once you're enrolled. Um, and just kind of provide you with anything you need. It's super, super easy. There's no wrong way to come to us. I think you can call, you can walk in, you can make an appointment, you can attend our orientation on Tuesdays. Like, yeah, there's really no wrong way to go about it.
Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're a student, is that right?
Mhm.
So what is your like connection to LLNW?
Well, me and the other interns were first, we went to Fort Vancouver High School, and then
Cool.
we were involved a lot with Mecha. And then we like would take field trips to the conferences, to back then they were called Clark County Latino Youth Conferences.
Yeah.
That's kind of how like we got introduced with Clark County Latino Youth.
Yeah.
And then from there, like the advisor, the teacher that was in charge of Mecha was like, oh, these are like really great kids. Like, and then like Diana Avalos, are like
Mhm.
the the one who made the organization, was like, oh, I'm looking for some like interns. And then from there, like Miss Rivard, the teacher involved in Mecha, was like, oh, I have these like kids. Since we were like, I guess like the leaders of
Yeah.
the group, she was like, oh, she kind of like directed her towards us, and then we've been interning for like 2 years now.
Oh, that's so cool.
Mhm.
Wow. That's crazy. 2 years is a long time. So have you enjoyed your time with them? Obviously, you've stayed so long, but like, how would you, I guess, describe your time, or like what's been most impactful for you?
Um, I don't know, like we did like these whole like sessions that were like focused around like mental health. They're called, it translates to butterflies, caterpillars to butterflies,
Mhm.
which were like mental health sessions that we made about like mental health, um, personal identity. Was another one. Um, I can't think of any other ones, but yeah, I thought I really like enjoyed making those because it was like, well, we're learning and like they're learning too, and I'm like, these are like things we don't often get taught at school.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so these videos, it sounds like these are a series of videos that you guys have been creating.
Mhm.
That's very cool. Are you guys just posting them on your website or on social media or like,
On like social media and YouTube and all that.
oh, cool. That's so cool. What inspired you to like put together these videos? Is that a project that you've been leading or the interns have been leading or?
Yeah, the interns have kind of been leading with like help with like the coordinators and all that.
Okay, very
Uh,
cool.
for as of what inspired us, I guess like the other interns, like my friends, like did this like I guess mental health session in high school,
Mhm.
and that's kind of like how we like started to do that.
So cool. That's awesome. Um, I don't think I have any other questions.
But like since I guess like those are kind of like over, those like sessions are over, we're kind of like focusing more on like pushing like our social media and all that.
Okay. Have you guys had any, like with COVID specifically, have you guys noticed any drop in like numbers and things or like people reaching out?
We actually like kind of like started during COVID, so I wouldn't
Okay,
like know anything specific.
that's right. It was 2 years ago. Yeah, you said that you started. Okay. How have you noticed like COVID impacting people just in general then through LLNW?
Um, like the conferences were like that we would have are like mainly in person, were made in person, and
Hmm.
then like now that they're like on Zoom, it's like yeah, we've gotten like less and less people. But like this year's compared to last year's was when like the first like COVID started. There's been
Hmm.
like a bit
Oh, that's a
more
good.
people like showing up.
Yeah. I think we're experiencing the same where there was like a kind of a drop during COVID. I think people were just struggling to survive. But now as we're getting more and more kind of out of that pandemic phase, there seems to be just more people out and about and involved in asking for services and things.
Wait, I had another question. So your like classes that you take that you
Hmm.
said they were called a different name.
Yeah.
Are those like online as well? About like
Hmm.
professionalism?
Yeah, our the Design Your Future courses, as they're now retitled, they are virtual right now, completely virtual. We don't have any in-person options. They used to be completely in person, and then with COVID for the last about 2 years have been completely virtual. We haven't started talking about what doing them in person again will look like, but I'm sure
Mhm.
with the pandemic kind of coming to a close, kind of, that will probably start having more of a hybrid option, even of in person and virtual, which is exciting.
Have you had anyone like be like, oh, I want this, I would like to learn this specific thing of like professionalism?
Like asking for specific thing.
Yeah.
The first thing that comes to mind is that we did have a student ask us how like insurance. This isn't directly related to professionalism, but they're like, how do I go about like looking at car insurance or
Mm.
like things like that. And so that is something we've tied into our workshops, which we also have. We have the professionalism classes, and then we also just have like random virtual workshops every day that go over different topics. Yeah, and that's been one that's brought up. But that's something we always ask our kids is like, okay, what do you guys want to see in our workshops? Obviously, we kind of have some regular workshops that we do over and over, like resume writing and cover letters and things like that. That's just incoming students are always going to need to know. But we definitely take really seriously getting feedback from our students as well, because we want to make sure whatever we're doing is relevant to them and that we're not just offering a bunch of fluffy stuff that they're like, we don't care about this.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's all for my questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you for chatting with me. It's been kind of fun hearing a little bit about what you guys are up to, and I hope I answered all of your questions well.
Yeah, it's nice to know there's like similarities with like all the like organizations that help with the community.
Yeah, I think the most important similarity is that we all just want to help, right? So I hope that people recognize that.
Mm-hmm. You would like to say to anyone who would watch this?
I think just that even if you're not sure what you need, but you know you need something, or you're struggling, or you want to grow education or career wise, like just check us out. I think oftentimes students are surprised by all the things that we can do, and sometimes even I'm surprised, like when I read through, or not read through, but like look at all of the services that we offer. Like sometimes I'm like, this seems too good to be true, and like when I describe it to students, I'm like, I know this sounds like it's too good to be true, it sounds like a scam, but like a lot of these programs really can do a lot. And with COVID, we found that sometimes people don't reach out because they think like, oh, I want to save that for someone who needs it more. But like, that's what we're here for, is to provide services for everyone. So don't worry about someone needing more. Like, we can definitely provide for them too, but we also want to provide for you if you need something.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I guess if you have any more questions or want to follow up at all, let me know. But otherwise, I look forward to seeing how you edit the video and like how it all comes together.